let's just chill out real quick on my boy Edgar Wright, okay? Before we get into this, though, you guys can check out my link tree down below. You can check out our short films. We even have a feature film called Vignettes on YouTube. Definitely check it out. Hit that subscribe button if you want more. The Running Man. Now, this is an adaptation of Stephen King's story, The Running Man. It's also kind of like a remake of the 1987 Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger, but this is Edgar Wright's vision. This is Edgar Wright's films. Now, there are two other screenwriters attached to this, but this is Edgar Wright's film, and this is his interpretation of The Running Man. I didn't really have any expectations. I mean, whenever I first saw the teaser trailer, I knew I was going to watch it because it's an Edgar Wright film, and I like Edgar Wright as a filmmaker, but there have been some interesting conversations about The Running Man online because it's not necessarily getting panned, but it's also not necessarily getting the greatest reviews. So usually whenever I see that discourse and I see people are kind of split down the middle, it gets me excited because I get to form my own opinion. You should form your own opinion anyway when watching a film. That's just sort of how it should be. But The Running Man. Now, The Running Man is about Glenn Powell. He is an individual. He's struggling with money. His daughter's sick, and he ends up joining this contest that takes 3 people, puts them out in the world, and they're hunted for 30 days. And if you survive the 30 days, you get $1 billion. That's basically what it's about. But it's also, I'm biased when it comes to this. I'm not going to lie. I do like dystopian type films. They just really tickle my fancy. And the thing that I like about The Running Man and its world is it doesn't explain how we got here in this world. There's not really any exposition on how we got here. And I feel like dependent on what your film actually is about, like, oh, okay, well, if it's a very character-driven film and we're following a story that just so happens to be in this dystopian-like world, well, I don't think we really need that exposition. We should probably just focus on the characters. But then, you know, if it's the world is a character in itself, which I wouldn't necessarily say the world is a character in itself in this film. I just think that it's kind of there. Kind of like when you look at a recent film that just came out, The Long Walk. We don't really need to know how the world got to this position, just how the characters found themselves in the position that they're in. And that's kind of what The Running Man does. That's what The Long Walk done. And I think that that's pretty... I think that's a pretty solid way to go about it. Both Stephen King stories, by the way. But Edgar Wright puts his own twist on this. There's 2 other screenwriters involved, but this definitely does feel like an Edgar Wright film. It's very heightened. You know, it is a popcorn film, which I mean that in the biggest compliment that I can. Like, these are the type of popcorn films that I really like to watch. It's bloody. It's got some gore in it. You know, it's not afraid to, you know, get out there a little bit with its dialogue. And that's what I like. Now, The Running Man... I think if I was to have a nitpick with The Running Man, and it's not necessarily a nitpick because it is a long film, and I don't have an issue with long films, but it does take a second to kind of get into the world, like the world that Glenn Powell is in terms of him being in this contest. But I will say once it picks up, and it really doesn't stop. Now, whatever you say about Glenn Powell, I like Glenn Powell personally, but I think regardless of how people feel about Glenn Powell, I do think that he was kind of the best pick for this role. Like, I feel like if you were to get someone who is a little bit more serious, it would have made this film a little bit more serious. And I think the lighthearted approach that this film takes really does help elevate kind of what it's going for. Because there were some times where I was thinking, I was like, okay, well, how is Glenn Powell going to get out of this situation? Like, how are we going to progress further in this? Which, I mean, of course, you know, like, you know, he's going to end up, you know, getting to a certain point. But I think the fun of it is kind of how tense everything gets. Like, it's very, what should I say? How should I say it? It's like you know what's going to happen, but there's these little moments that you're on the edge of your seat and you can't help it. And I think it's just a nice surprise to have those. Because one thing that I wasn't expecting with The Running Man when I first watched it was kind of how, I don't want to say it's grotesque because it's not, but it is, you know, they're not scared to come out and just do something. That's what I liked about it. I like that a lot. But also, I really like the character dynamics, and I really like the build-up to kind of like these confrontations. Like, there's one specific confrontation that's on this airstrip. I felt like it worked out really well. It's kind of like on a highway. It's not really an airstrip. It's more like a highway. And the whole build-up to that, I just felt like was executed perfectly. Now, there are some, you know, there's commentary in this film, which I have seen kind of bother people a little bit when it comes to reading other people's reviews. And I guess maybe being a little on the nose might bother people. For me personally, like, yeah, it was on the nose, but it didn't really distract me from the entire experience. I just feel like Running Man is a good time. Like, if you're kind of looking to just be entertained for 2 hours and 13 minutes and you want to see an action-heavy film, you want to see something that might keep you on your feet. Also, in a weird way, like, yeah, it is kind of a grotesque film, but I don't think it's a film that you couldn't watch with your family. That's kind of all of Edgar Wright's films in a way. Like, they are kind of grotesque and he's not scared to get out there. But, I mean, I would probably watch all of his films with my mom. I mean, I probably would. Like, honestly, too, with my kid. Like, I feel like these are good, I guess, entry-level films into the rated R realm of cinema, I guess. But that's the kind of filmmaker that Edgar Wright is. Like, I just think that he's trying to have fun. He's definitely a heightened filmmaker. I think that these are the types of stories that I like to see him tell, and I think you should form your own opinion about it. Like, is The Running Man one of the best films of the year? It's definitely in my top 15. I mean, for sure. Is it one of Edgar Wright's best films? Look, that's like Hot Fuzz, World's End. Those films are comfort films to me. Plus Shaun of the Dead. Like, I mean, that. Come on now. That trilogy right there is just fantastic. And then of course you've got Baby Driver, Scott Pilgrim, Pilgrim versus the World. But then, you know, I even like Last Night in Soho. I do think it is better than Last Night in Soho. I do think it is better than that. I don't necessarily think that this is a dip when it comes to Edgar Wright. Like, I do think that he's got a lot more under his sleeve. I just think that with this being the type of film that it is, and maybe expectations surrounding it, this might just be something that people aren't used to when it comes to Edgar Wright. Although I do think that his style was kind of like unmistakable in this, especially with the editing. I don't know. But I do think that Running Man is worth your time. You should definitely go see it. I think that it is a good film if you want to watch it with friends. I do think that it is a film that you can turn your brain off a little bit, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, if I'm being honest with you, just during this point in, you know, the film season where we get a lot of art house films and we get a lot of films that are kind of, you know, like, I mean, maybe a little bit pretentious, like, it is kind of nice to watch a film to kind of, you know, that you can turn your brain off. Like, I mean, I'm excited for Avatar. Okay, I have no shame in it. And then I'm going to go watch The Testament of Ann Lee, and I'm going to have a good time. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a thumbs up, maybe subscribe. Let me know what your favorite Edgar Wright film is down in the comments below. Take it easy. See you next time.